Now that the bold and the beautiful's Katie has decided to leave Forrester Creations and accept the fashion house Bill gifted her, it feels like the B&B writers are paving the way for what could be a truly epic episode. That episode could be a standalone one that involves a dramatic confrontation between Ridge and Bill. We know that the moment Katie leaves FC on The Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge is going to march right over to Spencer Publications and bark, "Spencer, what the hell have you done?" Bill visited FC a week or two ago and accused Ridge of undervaluing Katie's public relations skills. But Ridge didn't listen. Now that she's decided to leave FC, he will have to listen. This is going to be a stinging wake-up call for Ridge. B&B doesn't usually feature standalone episodes that spotlight one or two characters, but Kay and Diamond are veteran soap actors who need to carry an entire episode together so we can see their talent shine. After all, their characters have a lot of vitriol to unpack. The bad blood between them has existed for over 15 years. Even though they've fought about Brooke, Steffi, Bill's niece Caroline, and even Katie herself, maybe these two enemies have other rants they'd like to get off their chests, things that have been festering inside of them for years. For example, maybe Ridge has never gotten over the fact that Bill ordered his pal Justin to toss him out of a helicopter. And perhaps Bill would like to remind Ridge that he made that order immediately after Ridge stopped Brooke from marrying him, showing her a photo of Bill in bed with Quinn. Just imagine what would have happened if Bill had been around in B&B's early years. When Ridge was married to Bill's sister Caroline, Bill would have blown his top, having Ridge for a brother-in-law. Caroline was very much in love with Ridge, and Bill would have scratched his head and wondered what in the world she saw in the dressmaker. We can only imagine the heated arguments the Spencer siblings would have had over Ridge, with Bill repeatedly telling Caroline, "He's not good enough for you." The Bold and the Beautiful's Ridge and Bill are both infuriating at times, but here's something that needs to be said about Ridge. He is a big baby. His only reason for skipping Liam's and Hope's wedding was because Bill was there. Seriously? Couldn't Ridge put on his big boy pants and find a way to make nice with Bill for a few hours? For Brooke's sake? She's the mother of the bride, and Ridge is her husband, which means Hope is now his stepdaughter. He should have done the right thing and accompanied Brooke, just as Eric should have accompanied Donna. This was a Logan wedding. Ridge and Eric are married to Logan women, so their presence was needed. This is coming from someone who is not even a Logan fan, but what's right is right. No wonder Bill has no respect for Ridge. He once asked Ridge, "What is your definition of a man? Because honestly, I can't imagine how you can even call yourself one. You're just a little boy." Bill and Deacon don't like each other either, but somehow they manage to put their differences aside and be civil at the wedding. So, why couldn't Ridge be mature enough to go to the wedding and do the same? If Ridge can't even handle being in the same room with Bill at a family affair, then how in the world is he going to handle the news about Bill giving Katie her own fashion house? We can only imagine that he's going to go ballistic. Now that Katie has accepted Bill's gift, the Bold and the Beautiful fans are anticipating Spencer versus Forrester fashion wars. Sometime during those wars, we need to see an epic face-off between Ridge and Bill like none we've ever seen before. Many fans believe that Bill had two reasons for giving her the gift. Yes, he wants Katie to have a brighter future at a company where her talent will be appreciated. But Bill most likely also did it so he could hit Ridge where it hurts. Dollar Bill has delivered the ultimate sucker punch. Ridge never saw it coming. We need to see his dramatic retaliation. So, B&B writers, bring it on. We're here for it. B&B fans would have loads of fun watching these two men engage in a knockdown, drag-out war of words. We've already seen them physically assault each other over the years, so we don't need to watch any more of that. Words are much more powerful. So let's get Dollar Bill Spencer and Ridge Forrester alone in a room together and watch them verbally duke it out in a special, standalone episode that we will never forget. And let the best man win. The Bold and the Beautiful scoop for Friday, December 19th reveals Katie Spencer will step down from Forrester Creations. Also coming up, Steffi Forrester will tell Hope Spencer her brother has to go. B&B spoilers tease Thomas Forrester's return has thrown Hope for a loop. Because he's back, Deke Sharp could be out of a job. Plus, Hope doesn't want to work with Thomas again. On Thursday's B&B, Hope tried to reassure her brother that even though none of his designs were in production, it didn't mean he was going to lose his job. "You were hired for a reason," she told him. "Because of your talent, your portfolio stood out amongst all the rest." However, she learned differently when she discussed her fashion line with Steffi. The Forrester Creations co-CEO broke the news that her own brother is back and will be taking his rightful place as head designer on Hope for the Future. Which means they no longer need Deke. On Friday, when Hope pushes back, Steffi will say she'd better get used to working with Thomas again. She'll remind her former rival that she can't make business decisions based around the fact that she's uncomfortable around him. So, Hope will make a pitch for them to keep Deke. But Steffi will say there's no room for him. Meanwhile, Brooke Forrester will be stunned when Katie hands in her resignation. She'll excitedly tell her sister Bill Spencer has given her a brand new fashion house to run. Katie may even talk about the lack of respect she and Ridge Forrester have shown her recently. But once Brooke gets over her initial shock, will she be happy for her sister? Or will she try to talk Katie out of leaving Forrester Creations? Stay tuned! Hey B&B fans! Are you enjoying the latest CBS Sudser Beyond the Gates? Then make sure you join our free Facebook group. Keep reading the Soap Scoop, your source for the latest soap opera spoilers and B&B spoilers and news. And make sure to also join our B&B Facebook group. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Bold and the Beautiful online at cbs.com. Deke could end up sabotaging his future with Forrester Creations by taking Remy back. Deke reuniting with Remy has everything to do with the fact that he may lose his job at Forrester Creations. On The Bold and the Beautiful, Thomas and Zendi are back, and they want to collaborate on Hope for the Future. Steffi agrees they're the right fit for the job, which means Deke has to go. On Thursday's episode, Zendi surprised Steffi with Thomas. The two pitched their idea about Hope for the Future. Ridge joined Steffi, Zendi, and Thomas in the office. He loved their idea of taking over Hope for the Future, even though the position was previously given to Hope's brother Deke. Thomas was confident that he would make the perfect lead designer. His pitch already won Steffi over. She told Zendi and Thomas that she would handle Hope since they were now on good terms. Later, she called Hope into the office. Both of them remarked on how talented Zendi is at designing. Hope complimented Deke as well. Steffi agreed with her, but said they had to focus on reviving the line. She informed Hope that Thomas was back and wanted to work on the line. Hope wondered what this meant for Deke. Steffi told Hope that while Deke was a talented designer with a bright future, his future wasn't with Forrester Creations. Deke could see his firing as a betrayal. He was ditched for another Forrester. Arguably, he was hired on a trial basis, which means that if none of his designs go into production, he would lose his job. By this point, Deke had worked so hard to prove himself to the Forresters. He even distanced himself from his boyfriend, Remy, who turned out to have a dark past. Remy promised Deke that he would get therapy during their break. However, Deke might take Remy back after getting this bad news. And who knows? A dejected Deke might end up sabotaging his chances of getting rehired down the line by associating himself with Remy, who's hated because of his past with Elektra. But that could be okay here, because Forrester Creations may no longer be the only family-adjacent fashion house that Deke can turn to. Here's the full recap of what happened on The Bold and the Beautiful on Thursday, December 18th, 2025. Ridge tried to reach Brooke in the showroom, but she was on another planet. He eventually called out, "Logan!" to get her attention. She was concerned about Katie. Ridge thought that her worry was appropriate because she recommitted herself to Bill Spencer. Brooke knew how Ridge felt about Bill, but she thought things would work out better for the pair this time. Plus, this was a thrilling time for Will, with his parents finally back together. Ridge called Brooke an optimist and walked through the likelihood that Katie would be disappointed by Bill again. He was happy that Katie had Brooke to fall back on once Bill left her heartbroken. Ridge defended the choice to bring in the outside PR firm, but Brooke knew that Katie felt slighted by the move. She pitched the idea of giving Katie extra compliments and reassurance to let her know that her job was safe and that she was valued. Hope loved Deke's ideas for her line, even if it surprised him. He was disappointed that none of his designs had been produced yet. Deke was a new hire, and he hoped that someone else at Forrester would believe in him as she did. He didn't want this to become a pipe dream where nothing ever came to fruition. She reassured her brother that his portfolio stood out among the candidates for her line's resurrection. Hope told him that everyone at the company recognized his talent. She asked him to be patient and not lose faith that his time would come. Deke's talent wasn't the question. He got the position on his own merit. His connection to Hope wasn't why he got the job, and he wanted to keep it that way. If she chose one of his designs, he'd be over the moon, but he didn't want Hope to give him any special treatment. Deke appreciated the opportunity, and he wanted to make the most of it. Hope realized he wanted to turn his designs into real-life gowns. She understood. Deke thought it made sense for Zende to take the lead because he was a more experienced designer. However, Hope thought he was only given the lead on the design team because of his last name, Forrester. Anyone with that last name at the company would naturally have more sway. She believed, though, that there remained room for Logans and Sharps to make an impact. She also reminded him that it was her line, and she would fight tooth and nail to look out for him. Zende informed Steffi that 3 additional designs had been added to the Hope for the Future line. She apologized for taking him away from the couture clients, but someone needed to oversee Deke since he was so new to the craft. Zende didn't mind because it allowed him time to work with his cousin. She thought he meant her, but he quickly surprised her by welcoming Thomas into the CEO's office. Steffi asked what brought Thomas back to Los Angeles, and he told her it was time to rejoin the HFTF team. Zende caught Thomas up to speed about everything, including the search for a new designer. Steffi was elated that her brother was ready to jump back in as the line's lead designer. Thomas knew about Deke being on the design team, but he didn't think they needed him. Thomas sold it to Steffi as a no-brainer. Steffi told Ridge, "Your prodigal son is back," to his father's excitement. Thomas wanted back into the hold on the line that he knew intimately. There was no need for a trial designer because he was the best fit for the job. He felt as if Forrester needed to make an impact statement by putting a top-tier Forrester in charge of the line in the wake of Eric's retirement. Ridge urged Thomas not to be rude about Deke. However, Thomas wanted only Forrester family members to be involved in the design process. Steffi vowed to handle Hope and get her on board. It didn't matter how she reacted, because at the end of the day, the line stopped with her and Ridge. If it was something they wanted, there was no stopping them. Steffi summoned Hope into the CEO's office with an urgent update. Steffi explained that she had news about her line, and Hope also wanted to speak about it. Hope thought that Deke could contribute more to the line, but Steffi wanted to focus on the present. Steffi revealed that Thomas wanted to return to HFTF, and it was what she and Ridge wanted as well. She thought Deke had a bright future ahead of him. That future wouldn't take place at Forrester, though. Katie weighed her options to Bill. She knew she'd excel at owning her own fashion house, but the idea of walking away from Forrester after so many years was a daunting task. He reminded her that she would give the company a run for its money with her business acumen. Bill encouraged her to set the fashion world on fire. He wanted this for her, and he knew that deep down there was nothing she wanted more as well. Will walked in during the conversation, and he asked if his mother was okay. Will asked what Bill offered Katie, and he was floored that it was her very own fashion house. Will didn't think anyone would top the grand romantic gesture his father offered Katie. However, Katie felt as if it was a major financial risk for Bill to undertake. She worried that she wouldn't be able to make Bill proud, but he was sure she'd make it a success. Will asked Katie if she was going to do it and leave Forrester for herself. Katie hadn't decided which direction she would head in. She felt somewhat respected by Brooke and didn't want any backlash against Will for his mother's defection. Will enjoyed his time at Forrester and felt it was a good fit for the moment. Will wasn't worried about being fired by Ridge because he always had Spencer Publications to fall back on. There was nothing substantial standing in the way of Katie and her dreams. Will pleaded with Katie to follow her heart. She relied on Brooke and Donna as her support system, so it was a scary leap of faith. Will assured her that they would stand by her no matter what. Katie concluded they'd be proud of her and that she needed to seize the opportunity. She told her husband and son, "I'm going to do it." and everyone celebrated the next phase of Katie's career. Tempers flare at Forrester as Steffi and Hope go head-to-head over Deke's fate, while Katie delivers news that completely blindsides Brooke. Friday's Bold and the Beautiful is packed with confrontation and fallout in Los Angeles. The Bold and the Beautiful's must-watch moments for Friday, December 19th include Steffi and Hope butting heads over letting Deke go. Plus, Katie blindsides Brooke with her news. It's going to be a dramatic day in Los Angeles. Bill and Katie married after Bill surprised her with an unexpected proposal. Their wedding followed closely on the heels of Hope and Liam's nuptials, and the two moved quickly to make their relationship official. As a wedding gift, Bill handed Katie control of a fashion house. She remained at Forrester, but was recently left out of key conversations after the fallout involving Luna. Being pushed aside clearly didn't sit well with her. Katie remained conflicted about whether to accept Bill's offer. She turned to Brooke and Ridge for guidance, but their attempts to reassure her only added to her uncertainty. Meanwhile, Deke tried to steer Hope in a different direction with hope for the future, but she ignored his advice. He quietly slipped some of his own designs into the mix and continued working at Forrester, though the recent upheaval left him uneasy. Deke admitted to Hope that he's worried about what comes next for him at the company. Katie might jump ship and join Spencer Publications, and someone else might join her. Katie is agonizing over her decision on The Bold and the Beautiful. Bill gifted her a fashion house just hours after they got married. Even though she's frustrated with her job at Forrester Creations, she isn't sure if she should leave just yet. With a new fashion house on the horizon, Katie might not be the only one jumping ship. Bill understands it's difficult for Katie to abruptly leave her job, but he wants her to know that she would be respected and valued at Spencer Publications. Even though his company isn't necessarily a fashion company, that didn't stop him from creating a fashion house for Katie. She told him that it was a big decision and she would need time. But her frustrations at Forrester Creations could embolden her to move on. On Wednesday's episode, Katie spoke to Ridge, Brooke, and Carter, confronting them about hiring an outside PR team without consulting her first. She told them that they failed to keep her in the loop. Ridge told her that she was busy with personal matters, especially in light of Luna's death. Katie wished they had consulted her rather than keeping her in the dark. Then she rushed back to Spencer Publications in a bad mood. Katie was left wondering if it was time for her to move on. With a new fashion house on the horizon, there could be a major shakeup at Forrester Creations. In that same episode, Steffi hinted to Taylor that change was still in the air. Now that Eric has officially retired, Steffi wants Thomas to return as lead designer of Hope for the future. Meanwhile, Eric considered Ridge's idea of retirement, but he could step out of retirement to work for Spencer Publications once he learns they have a fashion house. They're going to need a lead designer, and Eric would be the perfect man for the role. This could cause an all-out fashion war between the father and son. So much for trying to keep the peace with Ridge, who thinks his father should focus on his health. The two will be feuding over their respective couture collections. May the best man win. Was he not given a fair chance? Deke might have gotten a raw deal on The Bold and the Beautiful. He was hired on as the lead designer of Hope for the Future. However, it has now been revealed that he's working on a trial basis. On Thursday's episode, Deke asked Hope about his designs for Hope for the Future. She assured him that his designs were good, but it's concerning him that none of his designs have gone into production yet. Deke admitted that he was nervous about his future. Will he be able to work on his sister's couture collection? Hope reminded Deke that he was hired because he's talented. He said he wouldn't worry about his future. But now it's in the back of his mind. Deke wanted to be the right designer for her collection, but he understood why Zendi's designs were picked over his. Hope said that he had the Forrester name, but added that there's a room for both Forresters and Sharps. She assured him to keep submitting designs and doing good work, and she would keep an eye out for him. However, that might be impossible since Zendi and Thomas want to collaborate on Hope for the Future together. Deke told Hope that he didn't want to get hired because of his name. That's why he sneaked his portfolio into Forrester Creations. He didn't want anyone to know that he was associated with her. He wanted to get hired based on his merit. At first, it sounded like he landed the role as lead designer of Hope for the Future, a significant position for someone who had just graduated from design school. However, it was later revealed that Deke had been hired on a trial basis, meaning that if none of his designs went into production, he risked losing his job. It makes sense for Deke to be hired on a trial basis, as he's new. He's just finding his footing as a designer. Thomas is a seasoned designer who's helped revive hope for the future in the past. The numbers spoke for themselves.